Rock here with another stream. Hopefully, all of you had a wonderful evening, got some well needed rest. Crypto market cap has popped up just a little bit, sitting at 816 billion compared to 804 billion yesterday. Bitcoin dominance still below 40%. ETH dominance inched up to 18.7%. Bitcoin sitting right now at 16,800. ETH sitting right around 1250. Binance coin sitting around 255. Dogecoin 7.2 cents. Cardano hopped up to 26.5 cents. MAC just barely above 80 cents. We can see crypto has popped off a little bit here in the past 24 hours. I think coinciding kind of with the Dow Jones just yesterday, but we are seeing Dow Jones come down here on the daily. We'll see if it persists moving forward. Again, I do think things will inevitably go down as we move further into the month. Looking at the one chart for Bitcoin, we can see the bulls did lose some momentum. The bulls did lose some momentum, leading to the bears driving price action back around 16,765. Now the bulls just need to continue onwards, or they, face the likelihood of losing more momentum and then again retesting these ranges somewhere around 16,600 or $16,400 Bitcoin. So we could see if bulls lose some momentum. Things still not looking amazing on the daily chart. Again, I think we still are waiting for this descending triangle to play out or break out. DXY still not looking great, even though it looks like it's found some sort of footing. We can see this trend line that we drew just yesterday is serving as resistance. Again, we'll see for how long that plays out, but we do have this pennant possibly playing out. Headed over to Twitter for some news. This is just to put in perspective as how 5.2 million Bitcoin have not moved in more than 5 years. Again, just shows with time, as more and more Bitcoin is bought up by hodlers, the hodlers continue to just hold, as we can see. Just 4 or 5 years into the existence of Bitcoin, we already have 3 to 5 year hodlers. People saw the utility, the value long term, even from way back then. Just shows you the conviction Bitcoin hodlers as time goes on. More and more people continue to hold for longer and longer periods of time, again, because they see the long-term potential. Bitcoin's longest contributing core developer hacked for over 200 Bitcoin. I'm kind of curious as to how this developer was hacked for over 200 Bitcoin. I mean, you would think he would know his shit, or he or she would know his shit, his or her shit, so to speak. But I guess not. The smartest of us make stupid mistakes like that from time to time again. Digital Asset News, or Dan over on Twitter, showing past performance of Bitcoin, basically showing you how DCAing $100 per week into Bitcoin paid off tremendously. Had you been doing that since first day of January back in 2018, you would have invested a whopping $20,000 worth roughly, and that Bitcoin would have been worth $146,000 at the peak, over a 7x gain from Bitcoin. Not too shabby. You can't get 7x's on some stocks, so just putting things into perspective. We've only seen 3 Bitcoin halvings thus far, 29 more to come. We're going to see our 4th Bitcoin halving next year, sometime around, I believe, April or May. So something to pay attention to. And After every Bitcoin halving, we see Bitcoin go on a tear, an absolute parabolic rally. So I hope you guys are ready for that. Hopefully, you guys are maybe following Rob's idea of DCAing maybe just $100 into Bitcoin a week. I'm certainly not doing that. I'll do maybe $100 every 2 to 3 weeks. To be honest, I'm just saving cash for when inevitably we do go lower. Maybe I can pick up some Bitcoin for 13K, 15K, maybe even 12 or 10K. That's what I'm really waiting for personally. So I'm not following a strategy, but here a leading Argentinian presidential candidate saying Bitcoin represents the return of money to the private sector. We can make the central bank, but I think he's going to lose his election, so to speak, or he'd be offed by the global elite because of the things he's saying. Idea that we can just eliminate the central bank. I love the ideal of the concept, but the B don't like to hear that from someone who's trying to gain power in part of the world. Argentinian presidential candidate has Bitcoin as a natural reaction against the scam of central banking. Again, he seems pretty based, pretty on point. He also says Bitcoin prevents politicians from robbing you through inflation. Again, this man understands what he's talking about, but maybe he's doing Bitcoin a little bit too much lip service, and the elites may not like that. Narrative is changing. Remember when all these groups said Bitcoin is dead, and we said no, and this is how it ends. Bitcoin is good. We have a large group of countries right here adopting and using Bitcoin, and then inevitably these people just have to go along with it. Granted, that's not to say these companies or these organizations, these media outlets aren't already endorsing Bitcoin, but by and large, there's people like Jim Cramer. Um, Obviously, there's people who can trade Jim Cramer, so anything he does, they do the opposite. They do the opposite. But people like him are wrong all the time to think that they're right about this one thing. Come on. Here we have a meme. Daddy, what did you do as the world began going to shit back in 2022? He said he bought Bitcoin like a psychopath, and his son just says effing legend. Welcome to the Bitcoin Cafe in Thailand. German-speaking Bitcoin community launches nationwide campaign with hashtag #Gesundesgeld. Maybe digital gold. I don't know what that means, to be honest, but good to see that we have supporters of Bitcoin across the globe. Indonesia announcing plans to launch national crypto exchange later this year. So again, more and more people are going to be piling into Bitcoin and crypto. So that's very good and bullish long term. Indians moved roughly $3.8+ billion to international cryptocurrency exchanges since the new tax rules. It's coming from CoinDesk. Rather smart. A lot of people are seeing the taxes taste in their countries, and since they're not crazy about the policies being set forth by the politicians, they're looking to put their money into digital assets like crypto and Bitcoin. It's kind of ironic that CZ from Binance is saying this of all things. Don't chase high yields. I have a feeling this tweet will become relevant again a few years' time too. We'll leave here and see. It's rather ironic that he's saying this considering his platform is one of the only platforms, to my knowledge, right now that is offering yield on Binance Coin. They're offering yield on Cardano. They're offering yield on DOT, Polygon, many other cryptocurrencies, some of them upwards of 5%. So it's rather ironic that he's posting something like this. Here we have Rand from Crypto Rand saying bought sold at $10, buying more now at $11.85. And this guy said, dude, you FOMO'd into Solana at 130 bucks or LARPed for liquidity. Either way, no one should take advice from someone who was 70% into Luna before it popped to zero. I mean, no one really could have seen Luna popping to zero besides the stupendous yield they were offering, but I think this guy is kind of on the point. Like, either you FOMO'd into Solana at 130 bucks, or you were basically just LARPing for exit liquidity. He has some good takes. I'm not crazy about Crypto Man Rand, but every now and then he has a good take. He has a good take here soon that I'll share with you guys. U.S. regulators are warning that banks should be careful about the risks of fraud, legal uncertainty, and misleading disclosures by crypto firms. There it is, writings on the wall. Regulations probably coming at some point later this year, via House of Representatives or Senate. The Senate, large Congress is going to regulate the crap out of crypto. Probably SEC is gonna have some swings of the hammer, so to speak. You fix the money, you fix the world. Hashtag Bitcoin. This is just an idea showing you how far our dollar, how it started. $10 in gold coin. This is the original $10 bill. Nowadays, it's just a Federal Reserve note, $10. Not in anything, not in gold and silver. It's just a piece of paper. It has value because we claim it does collectively. Chancellor says they're on the brink of a second bailout for banks. I'm assuming this over in Germany or potentially over in Japan. What's interesting about this is the last time this happened, uh, basically Bitcoin was born out of the bleakest of times back then, back in the 08-09 recession. Again, things are kind of coming full circle in many ways, kind of weirdly enough. Bank of Japan has announced a fourth day of unscheduled bond buying operations. The money printer is not going it's going berserk. It will provide families with 5,000 yen monthly handout per child. So, money printer going berserk again. Not good. Inflation will inevitably cause more and more people to look at Bitcoin and crypto as a whole, as inflation hedges for the most part. Let me get this straight. Here's another little tangent. Crypto Man ran SBF underscore FTX admits on tens of podcasts, spaces, and streams to defrauding investors, commingling funds, wire fraud by transferring funds via Alameda's account. He arrives at court and pleads not guilty, and now gets to go back to his parents for 10 months. Like, what gives? Interestingly enough, White House claims meetings between SBF and senior Biden officials were actually pandemic. I didn't know that SBF was an expert or was a pandemic preventionist. Like, come on, he's no scientist. Why were you guys really talking to him? Give us the juicy deets. And here we have Jean Pierre, basically talking about how you know the meetings with SBF were focused on pandemic prevention. Like, are you kidding me? No one's buying the story. And puts, apparently, if you run a fraudulent company and donate tens of millions of dollars to politicians, it magically makes you an expert on pandemic prevention. Yeah, they're lying in our face. And here we have Sam with his very, very apologies.
That should have never happened. And to all those affected, I want to say I am deeply sorry. I'm sorry.
Just to remind this guy, actually, FTX, his company, actually was backing medical studies saying, oh yeah, ivermectin is is not a valid treatment for C19, blah blah blah. So maybe we can get a sorry from him about that.
I'm sorry.
Meanwhile, he's on some laying down on some beanbags because his life is so hard. In other news, please bombard all your favorite independent creators with archived material about the obvious and likely Biden adjacent cover up of the Epstein slash JP Morgan case and the firing of the Virgin Islands Attorney General. So, if you were unaware, Virgin Islands Attorney General basically filed a lawsuit against JP Morgan and their involvement with Epstein and Epstein's horrible things that he was doing on his island. Not going to get into details, but essentially, after 2 or 3 days after the Attorney General filed the lawsuit against JP Morgan pertaining to Epstein and basically how they allowed Epstein to do malicious things with their funds. Basically, Joe Biden conveniently goes on to vacation over in the Virgin Islands, and shortly thereafter, the Attorney General is fired. Wow, what a coincidence. Looks like we have another major coincidence, you guys. Also, the Virgin Islands are trying to secure a lot of federal grant money right now for bailout. So, again, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Here we have Alex Jones. S3X trafficking was aided by JP Morgan, U.S. Virgin Islands lawsuit claims. Biden then arrives in Virgin Islands to relax between holidays. And shortly thereafter, Virgin Islands AG loses her job days after suing JP Morgan case in connection with the Jeffrey Epstein probe. Wow, quite the coincidence. That's pretty disgusting. In other news, we have Chinese foreign ministry saying on COVID restrictions by many countries on Chinese travelers, some countries' entry restrictions against China are based on faulty science and are simply unreasonable. It's rather funny when you have a country like China calling other countries out on them quote unquote not following the science. China has not followed the science one tidbit here in the pandemic. Just now they're starting to say, oh well, we're only going to make very old people or very sick people take a particular medical procedure that's being forced on many people here in the West. Those mandate campaigns have died down since earlier or sorry since early last year, Q1, Q2, but we're still adamant about following the science here in the USA. Have make no mistake about that. And we're going to continue the travel restrictions from people from China, making sure that they're up to date with their medical procedures. We're continuing this lunacy. It was going to end just in a few days' time, but we extended it 10th. Go figure. Again, we follow the science here in the United States. Corporate media is pushing the idea that you should mask up, um, saying that it's coming from saying that this information is coming from an infectious disease expert. The triple demic is hitting fast and furious. And just putting things into perspective, how far medical procedures have come. Back in the 1970s, back in the original medical procedure pertaining to the swine flu. Well, if there was one serious event per 100,000 medical procedures administered, the medical procedure was withdrawn entirely. Back in 99, regarding the rotavirus, 1 to 2 serious events per 10,000 participants of taking the medical procedure, while the medical procedure was withdrawn. Now, fast forwarding to 2022, pertaining to C19 medical procedure, one serious event per 800 medical procedures equals the medical procedure officially promoted. Like, just showing you how far and how far the science has come. You know, how much following to a T, that we're essentially lowering our standards more and more as time goes on, just showing you how corrupt big pharma is and how interconnected it is with the U.S. government. So, wow, look at that. No, never forget that there was war that was gauged against the unvaccinated. Never remember these people really treated people who refused to take a certain medical procedure for religious reasons and other reasons. They treated this group of people like second class citizens. I mean, the Joe Biden, the White House released a statement back in December of 2021 saying we're going to have a winter of death for people who refuse to take the medical procedure. It's going to be a long, harsh winter for themselves, their friends, and their family members. Like, listen to the rhetoric these jerks were saying. And you know what? Like, they were applauded left and right for the horrible things that they were saying. Again, what I'm not even being hyperbolic by saying it. The way these assholes treated people who refused to take the medical procedure, they're in line with, Hitler and the Nazis. Pardon my French. Hitler and the Nazis discriminated and segregated the society into have-bees and have-be-nots. And the have-bees are the people who willfully and ignorantly took the medical procedure, and the have-be-nots are the people who refuse to take the medical procedure. Here we have a football player who passed away recently. Said back on November 1st of 2021. Okay, so let's get these vaccine mandate, vaccine passport up and running as soon as possible. We seeing children die daily from the unvaccinated selfishness. Pregnant women are at risk too. Protect life, mandate the jab, jail anyone who refuses to protect life. Just recently, he died suddenly at the young age of 38. R.I.P. Dude. Even if you were on the wrong side, promoting essentially two-tiered society with the passports and the mandates and such, but RIP nonetheless. Same people who wanted to throw you in house arrest for not taking a medical procedure are offended that you're asking if the people who are dying suddenly took the medical procedure. Here we have a meme. The guy saying, "My coworker just died suddenly." This guy says, "That's awful. Did they take a medical procedure?" And then this guy says, "That's so inappropriate to ask." And this guy responds with, "Dude, you wanted to know if I took a medical procedure before you let me into an effing McDonald's." Yeah, pretty crazy stuff. Ed Dowd from February 2021 to March 2022, millennials have experienced the equivalent of the Vietnam War with more than 60,000 excess deaths. Vietnam War took 12 years to kill the same number of healthy young people as we've seen in just 12 months. Again, why are all these people dying suddenly? And, people don't want to look into how these individuals passed or whether they took a particular medical procedure or not. Pretty crazy stuff. Here we have Kane Koa, Substack.com, publishing a thread pertaining to the Pfizer files. I'm not going to read through all of it, but it's pretty damning. Pfizer has habitually engaged in illegal and corrupt marketing practices, bribed physicians, and suppressed adverse trial results. The secret, yet this fact continues to be brushed under the rug by politicians and the media. Pfizer's CEO Albert Bourla claimed during a November 2021 interview that a group of medical professionals intentionally circulating misinformation critical of the Pfizer jab were criminals. The Pfizer CEO must have forgotten the history of his own company. In '94, for example, Pfizer paid the Justice Department to settle claims that the company lied to get federal approval for a heart valve and then covered up safety concerns even as the device killed hundreds of patients. Pfizer's paid $200 million to settle lawsuits. Again, I'm not going to go through all of this, but and then back in 96, the year I was born, Pfizer gave an experimental drug to 200 Nigerian children without informing their parents that an approved cure existed or that their children were subjects of a medical experiment. 11 of these 200 Nigerian children died. Others suffered from brain damage, organ failure, or paralysis. But again, people like this asshole get to walk scot free because, by and large, most of us are, I'm sorry, but willful idiots. We're ignorant as hell. We don't want to accept the horrible reality for what it is. It's a tough pill to swallow. Anyways, guys, happy year. We learned a lot in 2022 thanks to Elon Musk. The conspiracies all turned out to be true. Reminder that you still can't trust the government, media, medical and complex, the science, academia, or status. People who basically push establishment towing lines, talking points, etc. Keep your guns and your Bitcoin. The question for 2023 is CUI Bono. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Can climate labels on menus turn people off cheeseburgers? Researchers found that fast food menus with climate impact labels can shift people towards choices with lower greenhouse gas emissions. Again, they want you to change your diet because the way you're consuming meat is unsustainable for the climate, supposedly. Maybe it's just me, but have I who stated multiple times on camera that the earth needs to lose a few billion people, be the guy who buys farmland in the masses, sells medical procedures, i.e. vaccines, and cares for the animals, seems like a bad idea. Yeah, and he wants you to eat a bunch of fake meat, and he wants you to stop riding on planes. Meanwhile, he's going to fly around the world in his private plane. In other news, New York Governor Hochul legalizes human composting for eco-friendly burials in New York. This is pretty interesting. Um, some people are drawing connections to a film back in the 1970s called Soylent Green. I'm going to purchase this film and check it out because I've heard about it many times. I just have like been skeptical to watch it, but after reading that, it's a telltale sign that I need to watch that film again. Maybe I'm reading into it too much, but pretty interesting stuff. This person says seems odd with everything going on in New York that this made it to the top of her bucket list. Guess crime or died suddenly is going parabolic soon in New York, and they need to know how to dispose of the bodies. So if you're kind of curious as to what this film is about, the year's 2022 will do anything to get what they need, and they need Soylent Green. Not to give too much of a spoiler what the film has to pertain to, but it kind of feeds into this whole idea of human composting. Could that find its way into the food supply of at some point or another? Someone down here, I forgot where it was, but basically they talked about how they could see um, the human composting be used as fertilizer to grow foods and such, or is it potential? Could it be used as could it be used in processed foods? I don't know. I'm not insinuating anything, but pretty crazy stuff that this is happening here in the United States. I was made aware by some family members that this already actually occurs in Ecuador, down in South America. So this is pretty crazy stuff. But I'll leave you guys with we're just about done here. I have one more after this. CBDCs give the government an alarming amount of control over us. Here's why. CBDC is a form of digital cash, just like cryptocurrency, except it's controlled centrally by your government. So the government would serve as the sole institution that governs this currency. It would give them full access and control over your private and personal funds. CBDCs will give the government the power to create money out of thin air, track every single one of your whereabouts and transactions, even delete funds directly from your digital account. CBDCs make it much easier for the government to strip you of your money by having the power to immediately freeze your accounts or revoke your access entirely. We owe it to ourselves to seek answers and pay close attention to this new world agenda being forced upon us. Don't fall victim to the government's attempt of mass manipulation. CBDCs are evil, and that deserves a retweet, my friends. I'll leave you guys with this clip. This is pretty crazy. This is essentially stripping us of our rights of freedom movement and such. Basically, they're going to limit how far you can move away from your house. You can everything that you will need will be within a 15-minute walk or bike ride or drive. No more leaving your designated area. I'm not saying that's happening everywhere, but I believe it's going to be becoming a commonplace in big cities in particular. I forgot what city she's talking to, but they already voted to do it and implement it by some point in 2024. Pretty crazy, but I'll leave you guys with the clip. If you guys enjoyed the video today, please like and subscribe, hit notification bell to be notified when we go live next. See you guys all tomorrow, 9:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. Until then, take care and invest wisely, and let me know down below what you think about the clip.
15 minutes of freedom here in the UK. So let me tell you the plan. The plan is in Oxford, and this has just been passed by the council, to divide the city here, in the squiggly city, into 6 parts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you will only have the freedom to operate in the part that you live. So if this is you, the idea is that everybody will live within 15 minutes of the things they need. 15 minutes of a school, 15 minutes of a doctor's, 15 minutes of a supermarket. And if you want to travel to the other zones in your city, or maybe soon your town, you will have to go out an approved route. You will have to journey around the outside of the city in order to re-enter another section of the city. This plan is supposed to be saving the planet. And the idea is that you won't simply be able to cross over into other sections of your city anymore. So if your mother, for example, lived over here, you wouldn't be able to just go across and see her. This would all be done via e-gates, electronic gates, and number plate recognition. You in your area will only be allowed within that 15-minute zone that you've been allocated. The number plate recognition will know if you leave your zone, and you can apply for permission, a permit to leave your zone and travel to another zone, but you'll only be allowed to do this about 100 times a year. This is real. I just have to stop and say that. This is actually being passed by Oxford Council. This is happening in the next 2 years, 2024 it begins. And if you use up all your 100 passes that someone designates whether you're allowed to have to go into the different zones, you'll be fined. Your number plate will be recognized. It will observe that you've gone somewhere you're not allowed in your own city, and it will fine you £100 or £80 or whatever the fine number is